How would you feel if your mother, father, grandparent, or family friend could no longer remember who you were, what time it was, or where they are? This is the harsh reality that my family and I faced with a lifelong friend. It started off subtly with him repeating his stories and questions, confusing what time of the day it was, and not being able to remember how to do things he had always been able to do. Now at this point the physical characteristics of the disease were not showing, but his wife could no longer take care of him at home because of the cognitive factors that were disrupting not only his daily life, but also her own. Now that is when he began living in the local nursing home. Through the years he was there, his wife faithfully visited him, and as each day passed, it was a blessing as he slowly began to fail before our eyes. Towards the end of his battle with Alzheimer's, he began to struggle to remember who I was along with the rest of his friends. Of course, this was not easy to deal with, but when I would go to visit him, I would always say, "Hi, John, it's your neighbor Andrew," and he would smile. This made it appear as if he remembered who I was, but I will never know for sure. Now, today I want to share with you the symptoms of Alzheimer's, what it is, and two potential treatments for it. First, let's look at what characterizes Alzheimer's. There are many behavioral and higher level thinking symptoms that identify Alzheimer's. Now, there are also several memory changes that affect people with Alzheimer's. Many people that have Alzheimer's are not able to remember recent events or people they have just been introduced to. They also frequently confuse the time and or place they are at and cannot remember how they got to where they are. Now, behavioral changes due to Alzheimer's are very noticeable in those that it affects. One recognizable change is the loss of interest in formerly enjoyed activities. Another identifiable change due to Alzheimer's is an alteration in mood or personality. Some people with Alzheimer's appear to be constantly confused or always suspicious and unsure of what's going on around them. Others become depressed or suffer anxiety. Now, the inability for higher level mental function to take place is also another symptom associated with Alzheimer's. Now, many people with Alzheimer's have difficulty communicating with others and struggle to find the right words or follow a conversation. And not being able to concentrate or complete everyday tasks are also common symptoms of Alzheimer's. Next, let's look at what Alzheimer's is. Alzheimer's is a disease that gradually deteriorates the brain function in the individuals it affects. Plaques, tangles, and loss of nerve cell connections all contribute to degeneration of the brain. Now, plaque is a buildup of a protein called beta amyloid between the nerve cells in the brain. Now, when this beta amyloid begins to have a high content level in the brain, a neurotransmitter that is responsible for memory and learning is slowly destroyed. Now, tangles are deficit macrotubules that can no longer perform their job. Macrotubules are responsible for transmitting nutrients throughout neurons in order to keep them healthy and functioning properly. When macrotubules are not working properly, the ability of the neurons to relay messages and nutrients is impaired. Plaques and tangles throughout the brain do not allow neurons to connect with one another. When neurons are not able to connect with one another, they die. Once many neurons throughout the brain have died off, the brain shrinks. Now, this decrease in brain size then leads to the loss of higher mental function. Now, Alzheimer's is a type of dementia that is most often seen in elderly people. Although it isn't uncommon, it has been known to affect people as young as 40 years old. However, it is most commonly affects people that are of 65 years old or older. And as you get older, the risk of Alzheimer's increases. Almost half of all 85-year-old people are affected with Alzheimer's. Now, there is one well-known treatment to help slow down the progression of Alzheimer's and one that is being looked into further. The one FDA-approved treatment available to decrease the deterioration and potential treatment is still being studied. Now, Aricept is the only FDA-approved prescription that is able to hinder the effects of Alzheimer's in all stages. How this does it is Aricept slows down the destruction of the neurotransmitters in the brain that is responsible for memory and learning. This is the prescription that John was on when he was prescribed with Alzheimer's. It was supposed to keep him functioning at a higher mental level longer, but we do not know if it was successful in doing so. Another treatment is called the Lilly treatment, and it is a vaccine that contains manufactured antibodies that remove the protein beta amyloid that builds up between nerve cells in the brain. However, the Lilly treatment is still being studied because of its possible side effects of brain inflammation. These two treatments are able to slow the progression of the disease, but there is no cure. Alzheimer's is the gradual deterioration of the mind with symptoms that are both frustrating and misunderstood. However, there is still hope for a cure.